Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, it's your favorite history teacher back at you again with another historical video. And today, as much as you said, you would like to see me do my own version of the A-Push review videos because you might learn a little something else from my style of teaching. So here we go. This is chapter 2 in your textbook, Transplantations and Borderlands. Okay, so I went through last night and did you guys the solid of highlighting things in red. So remember, write the title slide. Some title slides continue, so you don't need to continually rewrite them. And yeah, write down what's in red. All right. It is a little more than last year just because, I mean, it's AP. You never know what you're going to be tested on. And there are a lot of things that happen. We're talking like early colonial America today, people. Early colonial America. All right. So first things first is the Chesapeake region in colonial America, and that's near the Chesapeake Bay. For those who are interested, it's Virginia and present-day Virginia and Maryland. And as we've discussed before, if you haven't heard this before, Jamestown was the first permanent English settlement founded in 1607. Need to know that. That might be one of your multiple choice questions, all right? And it was a charter colony, meaning that a group of individuals shared in the profits and losses of the colony. You know, almost like a little stock, you know. GameStop, anyone? Anywho, you have something called starving time, and between winter 1609 and 1610, there were high fevers and deaths. There were a lot of dudes that came over from England to found this colony, and not a lot of women. And, you know, they're going to intermingle with the natives nearby, but for the most part, it was strictly a male colony. You have our boy, John Smith, fake John Smith. Actually, this is the real John Smith, who helped save the colony from starvation and, you know, got the colonists to work together and overcome this. And a good part of one of the main crops that develops in this region is wacky tobacco, introduced by John Rolfe, who is actually the real guy who marries Pocahontas. So Pocahontas did not marry John Smith. I'm sorry to break your Disney values and traditions, but he fake. And he also was hated by King James the First. Tobacco is obviously going to make money for the colonists. However, it's a very, it's not good to continuously grow in the same fields. So it's going to exhaust the soil, which is going to lead to colonists wanting to expand. And when you try and do that to find more land instead of replenishing the soil, you're going to run into some conflicts with the nearby local natives, and, you know, some skirmishes happen. And this, of course, is an endless cycle in American history. It's kind of where it starts because of tobacco. So this is the Maryland Chesapeake region. This is the Chesapeake Bay, if you've ever seen a map. Oh, why does it do that? Ugh. All right, and this is your boy John Rolfe and Pocahontas. Oh, I thought I deleted this. Oops. All right, so you have expansion. So one of the important things about expansion here is something called the headright system, where new settlers from England coming over would receive 50 acres of land. Now, that's a lot of land. And if you paid, you would get this amount of acreage in the new world. And if someone paid the passage for an immigrant, the buyer would receive 50 acres of land as well. And this is going to heavily encourage indentured servitude to begin in America. Now, remember, indentured servitude is where people are going to come to America and work off their debt and be a servant, be a indentured slave. Layman's terms, and they would work off their debt. I think it was like between 5 to 8 years, and after that, they were given their freedom. Their debts would be wiped, and that would be it. That's indentured servitude, all right? And so, obviously, they're going to be white people, majority. And then in 1619, you have two important events. You have the House of Burgesses, where it's the first model of representative democracy in colonial America, and that's in Virginia, VA, Virginia. Also, it was the time the first Africans arrived in America, 1619. There's an actual podcast called 1619 to talk about the trajectory of slaves when they were brought over in the first year. 1619. And obviously there's going to be conflict with natives. The Powhatan Confederacy, which was a big confederacy nearby, and they would no longer be a threat by 1644. Oh, colonists. That's the House of Burgesses, all nice and fancy for you. All right, so moving on. Okay, so Maryland is, we're going to talk about Maryland, talk about Virginia, we're going to talk about Maryland. It was founded by the second Lord Baltimore, and it's going to do a little bit better, just based, on experience, learning from what Jamestown did. And so it's going to do a little bit better. And you have something called the Act of Toleration in Maryland, where the freedom of worship was allowed to all Christians. And this is especially true for Catholics, but not for if you were not a religion of Christianity. So like Jews, for example, if you were Jewish, there'd be you could be put in jail for having a different jail, or put to death for having different religious values. And then you have something called Bacon's Rebellion, 1676. And this comes up every now and again on the APUSH exam. And this is when in Virginia you have Governor Berkeley. He didn't allow settlement for the colonists past a certain line because obviously natives. And in the West, the western part of Virginia, many farmers had been underrepresented in the House of Burgesses, and they wanted to act. So there's going to be these conflicts between the natives and the Westerners, including a guy named Francis Bacon. Bacon! And they are almost going to take over, but he's going to die suddenly of disease. Stupid disease always ruin everything. And what's the significance? Well, many of these Westerners, these poor farmers, were the indentured servants who had gained their freedoms, and they were kind of left with really not a lot. And so when you get your freedom, that's it. You're not given land. You're not given acreage to farm. You're free. Well, now these guys aren't really represented in the House of Burgesses, so they're going to revolt, and this is going to turn the colonists to move towards actual slaves for labor and not having indentured servants, because for a while, slavery's bad, right? So if you get people who actually gain freedom and then revolt against you, that's not going to be good. So let's get people who won't act up, and that's going to lead to slavery, African slaves being brought in. And it's also going to show the tension between the rich and the poor, East and the West, not only in Virginia, but early America as we expand westward. All the stuff, all the business is going to be happening in the East, not a lot out in the West, and that shows up from time to time. All right, and here's Nathaniel Bacon. I said Francis Bacon. He's the scientist from world history. Nathaniel Bacon. This is Berkeley. So the growth of New England. So Plymouth Rock. You have pilgrims. Now, pilgrims and Puritans often get mixed up with each other. But here we're talking about pilgrims who were separatists, and they wanted to break away from the Anglican Church, the Church of England, who your boy William Henry VIII. Who I can't remember things. And then, of course, on their way over, they signed something called the Mayflower Compact, which established government led by majority rule. So majority rules, majority does whatever, they'll do whatever the majority wants. And they had good relations with the natives, while many natives died after a few years from disease because, they're not immune. The natives will teach the colonists how to farm and hunt and Squanto and all that Thanksgiving stuff. And then you have a guy named William Bradford, who was the actual governor of Plymouth. Big name. All right, that's the Mayflower Compact being signed, where everyone agreed that when we land, majority rules. So it's almost like the first instance of like self-government, because obviously they are separatists. They want to separate and have their own style of government, and so they're agreeing to terms and in a modest way. So then you have the Puritans, and obviously Puritans, think of Martin Luther, although his followers are called Lutherans, so don't make the connection. But King Charles I, early 17th century, so we're talking 1600s, began to target Puritans, aka who wanted to purify the Church of England, not break away. They wanted to take away like worshiping, statues, having the Bible in Latin and other church practices that they thought were not what they thought the church should be. It's going to eventually lead to the founding of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, led by a guy named John Winthrop. Make sure you know that name. I don't know why I don't have it in red, but John Winthrop founds Massachusetts Bay. Massachusetts Bay, Puritans, okay? Pilgrims, Plymouth. Puritans, Massachusetts Bay. And of course, Puritan beliefs, they actually believe in predestination. So it's like predestined. You are told whether or not you will go to heaven or hell, and there's nothing on earth you can do to fix that. No matter how much prayer, no matter how much reflection you have, no matter how many times you go to church, you're predestined. If you're going to hell, you're going to hell. And they focus on reading the Bible, and that's going to, infiltrate into education. And they have this idea, city upon a hill. It wasn't really built on a hill, but it's this idea of a perfect society that is being built, a model society to learn from and to be an example for anyone coming over. That's the idea of city upon a hill. And church members were the only people allowed to vote or hold political office, and they're not going to extend religious freedom to others. So you had to follow this, and if you didn't, you were jailed. And that's our boy, John Winthrop. All right, so Thomas Hooker, he is going to found the Connecticut colony, and that's going to establish a constitution called the Fundamental Orders. And remember, all these colonies, they're not in agreement of forming this United States. All right, the 13 colonies have 13 separate governments, 13 separate rules, laws, regulations, religious beliefs. Okay, they're all different. Okay. You have a man named Roger Williams, who was an extreme separatist, and he wanted the Massachusetts Bay Colony, MBC, Massachusetts Bay Colony, to completely break away from the English church, Anglican church, and that's a little too radical. He's going to advocate for the separation of church and state and give payment to the natives for their land instead of just like taking it, killing them, and, raping them and doing all that bad stuff. Well, that's going to seem a little too radical, too progressive. So he's going to be banished to Rhode Island. If you don't know, Rhode Island is the smallest colony. However, in Rhode Island, all religions could be worshipped there. There's no laws against Puritanism, Pilgrimism, Catholicism, Anglicanism. It's you can do you, bro. And then you have another famous person, Anne Hutchinson. We're going to read a little bit from her in the future, and she's going to challenge the power of the clergy and the rights of women. If women can have rights within the church. And after her banishment, many churches are going to restrict women's rights further because they don't want women acting up. It's a man's world, and the women got to stay home and raise the children, make me a sandwich. All right, that was very sexist. I take that back. But that is the feeling towards women, right? Here you have Anne Hutchinson. I was banished because I challenged the clergy and thought women should have more rights. You could almost say that's like the beginnings of the suffrage. No, I wouldn't say suffrage. That's women just wanted more rights, right? All right. So the growth of New England continued Native American conflicts. And you have two wars that are talked about in colonial America. You have the Pequot War, where conflict was over land and trade, and the Pequots were decimated. And then you have King Philip's War. It's not an actual King Philip. That's his government name. His actual name is Metacom. And so it's called King Philip's War, Metacom's War. And he's part of the Wampanoag tribe. And again, all these wars in colonial America are going to be fought over land, okay? Because the colonists want to gain as much land as they need to what? Make money. That's what colonies are all about. Yeah, sure. Let's have our religious freedom, but we're also here to make money. We're here to make the money. All right. Eventually, the whites, the colonists won, and Wampanoags were weakened. That's King Philip, aka Metacom. Metacom. All right, so restoration colonies, you just need to know Carolina, New York, New Jersey. If you think about restoration, this happens after, if you think about it in world history terms, this happens after the English Civil War, and our boy, I can't think of his name, Cromwell dies. And England's like, well, do we elect a representative, or do we go back to the Stuart dynasty, and well, that's called the Restoration, when they restore the monarchy. And these are the colonies that happen to pop up during that time. And you have Carolina, which is not broken up between North and South just yet, but similar to Maryland, they had a headright system. They had practiced religious toleration to all Christians. However, in the northern part of the colony, there are poor farmers, and they were kind of isolated by the terrain. And in the south, they start popping up of wealthy plantations. They're aristocratic, meaning, wealth is transferred familiarly. It's, wealth is passed down through the family. And they also had trade with Barbados, which is going to lead to more slavery. Barbados is a huge sugar colony. It is an important trade partner with British North American colonies, as it is a part of the British Dominion. You have the colony of New York, which was first called New Amsterdam. Originally belonged to the Dutch, and various groups had some religious toleration in local governments, and then it's going to pass over to an English colony. And then you have New Jersey. NJ was a proprietor colony and becomes a royal one. And most of the were just small farmers, wheat and all that. Okay, so now you have the Quakers, Quaker Oats, and they believed in an inner light, that each person had their own religious experience and they all can attain salvation. They did not favor predestination. Okay, and they're very progressive because women could actually have rights in the church. They can become preachers, speak publicly, and without repercussion. And they're also pacifists, meaning they're against war, and they didn't pay their clergy. And it was founded by the guy William Penn, and Pennsylvania is where Quakers are. PA, Pennsylvania, proprietor colony. He is going to pay Native Americans for their land, and they're going to be a holy experiment where the toleration of many religious groups are going to occur, because the Quakers aren't as crazy as everyone else. William Penn, I wanted to make money, allow people to practice their religion freely. What a good guy. What a good guy. All right, so you have Borderlands and Middle Ground. The Caribbean islands, a lot of sugar is grown there, and that's becoming the most important crop in the islands. And it's going to be a large slave outlet factory. Oh, that's a bad word, but it's white people growing sugar because of the native slave population there, and they're going to have harsh slave codes. Again, like I said, they're another important trading partner with British North America. And of course, the Spanish are in North America. And what the Spanish are good at is converting the natives to Christianity. However, they dislike it. They're going to be converted. They enlisted them as trading partners. They're going to intermarry. And they're not going to see that as a bad thing. The first couple colonies besides Mexico, Florida, and a little part of Louisiana, and of course, the American Southwest. That's pictures of sugarcane. It's highly labor intensive, which is going to lead to a lot of slaves tending these sugarcane fields. Okay, and then you have Georgia. Georgia. You like those vocals? SoundCloud dropping real soon. All right, it was founded by a guy named James Oglethorpe, and it was founded for two reasons. One, to be a border against the Spanish, because if you don't know American geography, Georgia borders the Florida border. Georgia borders the Florida border. Weird. Say that 5 times fast. And also is a haven for debtors and the poor. So if you were in debt to people, you'd be put in jail. Well, let's be convicts and run away. So Georgia, founded there. Originally, Oglethorpe excluded African slavery and Catholics, mainly because of Catholicism was practiced in Georgia, the Spanish would be like, well, we're Catholic, let's take it over. Later, Georgia then began to develop slavery, began to develop when slavery was introduced, instituting plantations modeled after South Carolina. And the French settled in the interior of North America, like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. So like they call it the middle. They call that the Northwest back in the day. They called it the Northwest. And they had a beneficial relationship with the natives, trading partners. Beaver pelts were highly thought of, highly sought after. Beaver pelts to keep the cold away. And that's your boy, James Oglethorpe. Okay, the evolution of the British Empire. We already know about mercantilism. Remember, that's having a positive trade surplus. You know, you trade, you export more than you import. Okay, make money for the mother country. Then you have things called the Navigation Acts, one of the first acts to be instituted where colonists can only trade with England. But, you know, the Spanish want to offer me this much, and you're offering me bottom dollar. You're still forced, they were forced to trade with England. And colonists can only ship certain goods called enumerated articles to England, aka wacky tobacco. And of course, others like, you know, tea. And the benefits of the Navigation Acts on the colonies, well, because they can only trade with England, shipbuilding is going to grow, shipbuilding industry. So lumber and iron industries that make up the building of a ship are also going to blossom, grow. And here you have a mercantilist argument for colonial expansion. You have the mother country, say England, and these servant girls represent colonies. And what are colonies good for? Give me gold and silver. Give me all the food stuff. Give me raw materials, because I'm fat and I'm ready to eat. And this is a picture of tobacco, the tobacco plant. All right, second to last slide, I believe. So evolution of empire. So the Dominion of England, created by your boy James II, combined the control of several colonies under a man named Sir Edmund Andros. Andros strictly enforced the Navigation Acts. He was hated by many colonists. And then you have something called the Glorious Revolution. We should all know that. If you don't know that, constituted. Make it to your memory banks. James II's overthrown as Parliament started to, you know, flex their muscles and say the king can't dissolve us without Parliament's own consent to dissolve themselves. Remember that? Okay. And he brings over his daughter and son-in-law, William of Orange, and his daughter Mary. They're installed as joint rulers, but remember they had to sign the what? The English Bill of Rights, you're correct. Andros and the Dominion of England were overthrown. And Massachusetts and Plymouth, MA, Massachusetts, Plymouth, kind of the same area, were combined as a royal colony. And then you have a guy named Jacob Leisler, and he's going to try and lead a revolt similar to like Bacon's Rebellion. But it's not going to really work. And it's going to demonstrate the tension between the lower class and the wealthy. Surprise, surprise, that comes up all the time. So that's William and Mary. And that's, I believe this is James, or this is Andros. I want to say this is Andros. Okay, last slide. The evolution of the British Empire continued again. The impact of the Glorious Revolution, colonists successfully resisted some English policies, putting their foot down, saying no more, no more. And it strengthened their beliefs that England should consider the colonists' views, i.e. getting some representation in the parliamentation. I wanted to make it right, to get some representation in Parliament. So these are just past essay topics. If you want to practice them on your own, these actually showed up on the 2005 and 2010 past 8-push exams. Okay, So there you have it. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully you did enjoy. I might turn the comments on for this one if you liked it, if you didn't like it. If there's something I need to improve on, let me know. As always, smash that like button. Help your boy get monetized. You know what I'm saying? Uh, leave a like if you did. And as always, stay safe, wash your hands. Peace.